feet. You know, they gotta see the feet. You know what I'm saying? They gotta see the low top Jordan ones on the feet. You know what I'm saying? Only right with the gummy sole. You know what I'm saying? It's only right.
What it is, running it down on these niggas. Sex, drugs, money, and murder, my nigga. You know how we did it, my nigga. Still be painting them bitches, my nigga. Ripping that roll, fucking your bitches. Sex, drugs, money, and murder. 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 Niggas, they never gon' hurt you. Niggas, they never will hurt you. Sex, drugs, money, and murder. Sex, drugs, money, and murder.
Got the tracks right, understand how to get that. Ran down on them niggas with a flip back, new and
You say. The #1 listening show, where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring Rkelly. In what turned out to be rather a twisted interview on Fox Soul by Jason Lee, Rkelly, one of the Rkelly accusers sounded a lot like Kelly's new attorney Jennifer Bonjean, who over the past weeks has come out strongly to oppose the RICO charges she believes have been wrongfully imposed on Robert. Rkelly, dressed in hot pants with a baggy denim top, and looking all sexy, was asked a number of questions, which she answered seamlessly like the prosecution would have wanted her to. But when it came to the question, do you feel like there are other people who should be in jail, like assistants, security or drivers and the staff who would book hotels and travels for the R&B king? Rkelly crossed over to the Rkelly camp and made sure to rubbish the RICO charges herself. According to Azriel, she went through something toxic only, and only with one person, and that's Rkelly. She continues to say that it was only one person that put his hands on her, it was only one person that did not allow her to speak with her family and so forth. In her own words she concludes, "I cannot go around blaming this person and that person for what they did not do," stating that this would make her fail to grow as a woman, indicating how stressful it would be to lie all through, and that she doesn't want to be a part of that. Azriel also says that these people who worked with Rkelly, whom the prosecution is trying to drag into this case, were never pals of Rkelly that much. Instead she defends them, suggesting Rkelly mistreated his staff, took advantage of them, fired them unfairly, cheated them terribly and talked about them terribly, which was wrong. By this, she is clearly disregarding government's claim that Rkelly could have worked closely with these people as partners in crime in the so-called enterprise that never really existed.
I mean, honestly, I don't necessarily think, I cannot speak for anybody else. At the end of the day, I went through something toxic with one person. One person is the only person that put their hands on me. One person is the only person that did not allow me to speak with my family and so forth. So I cannot sit up here and say, oh, I want to blame this person, I want to blame that person, because then even I wouldn't be growing as a young woman if I was sitting here sitting with all that baggage and holding on to all of that. So no, I feel like the only person that, took advantage of people, and even his staff, fired them, treated them terribly, talked about them terribly, that person is exactly where he's at, sitting.
Listening to all this coming from a prosecution witness makes one think, why is the government still insisting on an enterprise theory which the prosecution witnesses themselves regard untrue? If someone comes out to say, I am not a victim of a criminal enterprise, why is the government so determined to defend the claim of an enterprise? Is the government representing the victims, or is it representing itself? I wonder. While Bonjean is giving the court so much reason to realize that the RICO charges won't hold, and then this. Prosecution must be having their intestines turning knowing that their cat has been let out the box. This whole enterprise theory just doesn't have a firm basis, and will only expose prosecution the more on how they are employing prejudicial theories to see Rkelly get the maximum possible sentence. The good news is that the Supreme Court does not in any way tolerate prejudicial tendencies, and will most likely shut this down as soon as it gets to their table. The challenge with prejudice, apart from being legally unacceptable, it compromises witness credibility, rendering the entire case against the defendant meaningless. The good thing being that this is coming from the affected party this time, not Rkelly's attorney, or just anybody. Should the court ignore this and continue to sentence Rkelly with assumption he violated the RICO Act, it will surely be hat off for the government. There is just no way a competent court of law should be ignoring facts stated by the affected party, especially in neutral circumstances like this interview by Fox Soul, a platform that has completely no special interests in the case. Also, fact that Azriel was able to say this after taking a many months break from the September 2021 trial, with ample time to ponder and resolve on what really happened, makes her report sound like the real truth. If this too is ignored, then we surely need to appeal to the higher court of the land. Since this interview was aired, there has been a lot of criticism by observers who have been following the case, some thinking that random witness interviews should be stopped, probably to prevent spilling of the beans. Prosecution ought to brace itself, as statement variations will likely become the reason they will be brought to account. If someone says something today, and the exact opposite barely 6 months later, it becomes difficult to rule out possible coaching and malicious intent. Time and again, Rkelly's lawyer, the general public and case analysts have come up in contempt for the RICO charges that they believe were falsely slapped onto Rkelly, and government has adamantly refused to act accordingly to drop the charges. With such new testimonies coming from what one would call the first layer of witnesses, those that experienced the alleged abuse, I am not sure that government will get away with this level of malice on the R&B king. According to Jada, I just love the way the good Lord created this world in a way that truth has got so much power, and cannot remain hidden for so long. No matter how hard they try to keep us from learning the truth of what they are trying to do to Rkelly, somehow it eventually finds its level and pops out. My only advice to government would be to give up the prejudice and drop the RICO charges on Rkelly. Even after reading the trial transcript over and over again, one cannot find any justification for these charges. According to the government, anybody that did anything that helped Rkelly live his life during the past 2 decades is an accomplice. All simply because it was during this time that Robert is said to have committed the alleged crimes. According to Kimura, I am beginning to get sick and tired of hearing about these so-called RICO charges that were smuggled on Rkelly's charge sheet with completely no justification. There was no need for this if all they wanted was justice for all. But because this quickly turned into a witch hunt, with the sole aim of keeping Robert behind bars for the rest of his life, that's why we are having this rather discomforting conversation. I want to believe there is only one single interpretation of the law, and anything else deviant should be disregarded completely. I do not expect the government to be attempting to create custom interpretations of the RICO Act, just so as to suit their current need. The interpretations need to be precise and clear-cut as they are, in order to prevent misuse of clauses for selfish reasons. The people mixing things up are the ones confusing the entire act. And these may cause plenty of conflict with this particular act going forward. I was once made to believe that the authorities can be trusted, and more so those operating our justice system. But looking at the way this RICO Act has been twisted to suit personal needs makes me think again about whether anyone can actually be trusted. According to William Bossman, this is a dirty world we all live in, where you can hardly trust anybody to remain objective in an emotional case as Rkelly's. But when the sentiments are over, the truth shall prevail. That is all we had for you today on HN What's Your Say? To keep updated whenever we...
Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, Brian. How are you?
Well, what's the reaction to today's sentencing? 30 years behind bars.
I think it's terrible. I mean, it's an abomination. It's totally uncalled for when one objectively looks at the facts. I know that people think that he got 30 years because he was having sex with underage women, but the fact is that the New York case involved adult women, although younger adult women, but adult women, and it encompassed when Robert was in his 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. So the age difference got larger, but at some point it wasn't this outrageous thing, but it involved consensual sex acts with adult women that I think that the feds frankly bastardized the RICO statute to bring the cause of action.
And women who testified today at the sentencing hearing talked about years and years of abuse and how he used his wealth and his talent to lure them into situations where he abused them.
Right. So we had a bunch of women who came from, most of them questionable, for lack of a better term, low income backgrounds, who all of a sudden were living a rock style life, staying in the nicest hotels, flying on private jets, wearing the nicest clothes, and they're complaining that now, in hindsight, that was some kind of manipulation. I call BS. I say that was women who wanted to be, groupies to a rock star. None of these women complained. None of these women complained then. They weren't in isolation. I mean, they were around people. They were around Kelly's people. They were at shows. They were at dinners. When they were out of the relationships, none of them complained to their family or friends. So I call BS.
The judge went beyond the prosecution's request, and they said in their letter, the prosecution said that he showed a callous disregard for the effects of his abuse and has yet to show any remorse or contrition.
Right. One of the things that I know his lawyer in New York wanted to do was put off the sentencing till after his Chicago trial. So she had him evaluated, and then the prosecutors said that those evaluations weren't credible because he didn't talk about everything. But the fact is that because of the way they've done these prosecutions, if he had talked about everything in his life, he would possibly have been confessing or implicating himself in other cases that are still pending. So he was hamstrung, and I think it was completely unfair to use that against him. The evaluation said that he's not a pedophile. He has a sex problem. He basically, according to the evaluation, would have sex with someone if they were 85 just as easily as he would have sex with someone if they were 17.
Prosecutors also talk about a network of enablers who helped facilitate his crimes. Who are the enablers, and what happens to them?
I don't know. I don't know. That's how they also talked about a racketeering enterprise, yet they didn't charge anyone else. I mean, if I was going to talk about enablers, I would start with Azrael Clary's parents, who sent her, and this is all in the pleadings, in the post-trial motions, sent her to meet Robert, saying, you should try and have his babies. You should make him love you. They're enablers. They're her parents. I would talk about this sister of the young lady from, and when I say young lady, she was an adult, from Houston, Texas, who flew up to New Jersey or New York to meet Robert and went backstage with her sister. Who's the enabler there?
The judge, Ann Donnelly, went beyond, as I said, the prosecution request and said the public has to be protected from behavior like this. What do you make of that? What led to her decision, do you think?
I think she certainly went way beyond what I thought was necessary. Sometimes we sort of scorecard these things and say what we think someone's going to get. I thought that 10 or 12 would have been plenty. I thought she was going to give him 18. 30, I think she's just, I think she's misreading everything here. Robert himself is a victim of very severe abuse when he was growing up. He's a victim of the cycle of poverty. He's a victim of everybody turning the other way, and no one's saying to him, after he got in trouble in the early 2000s, someone should have said to him, look, man, you got to get some help. You got to get some counseling. You got to do this for your sex addiction problem. Instead, they just let it go on because that made it easier for them to steal from him, because then he wasn't paying attention. So maybe those are the enablers, but I think the judge completely failed to take into account Robert's history.
But he is an adult. He can make decisions. He knows the difference of right and wrong, doesn't he?
He does, but you have to think, this indictment went back to the 90s. The first acts in this indictment, Robert was in his early 20s. Okay, he wasn't a 55-year-old man. And after those allegations involving Aaliyah, The other allegations in the New York indictment were adult women. Maybe they were young adult women, but they were adult women in that particular case.
What's the next step for him? He's got other trials faced in Chicago and elsewhere. What happens next?
Well, he's got a trial that's supposed to start, I think, August 15th in Chicago. He's going to have to get with his legal team. I suspect that they'll see if they can work out some kind of a deal concurrent with the New York case. I know he's got very strong issues for appeal in that case, and I expect him to go ahead and appeal that case. I still have 4 cases that I'm handling for him in state court in Illinois. I plan on going to trial on all 4 cases. I plan on winning all 4 cases. And then he has a case in Minnesota, which is an absolute joke, where they claim that that he was paying someone to be a prostitute when in fact she wanted to just dance for him.
Well, do you say that he denies any wrongdoing whatsoever?
Well, I can't get into my conversations with him. I can tell you that I think that this prosecution, for which he was just given 30 years, is the greatest abuse of the RICO statutes that we've ever seen in this country. And we should all be scared, because what they did is they took a bunch of things where the statute of limitations, even if he had done it, it expired, and said, well, we're going to use the RICO law and prosecute him now. And if they can do that to him, they can do it to any of us.
That is the law, though. They can reach back, right?
Well, the law is they can reach back, but, Brian, I don't want to get too far down in the weeds, but they used, for instance, and I've spoken about this before, a 1944 New York law making it a crime to transmit a sexually transmitted disease. No one had ever been prosecuted under that law, as far as I know, in the history of New York State. It was a misdemeanor. Because he took the girl from New York City to New Jersey, where he performed a concert and had sex with her backstage, and she was his girlfriend at that moment in time, they said it was a Mann Act violation, making it a federal felony that supports a RICO charge. That's quite a stretch. If someone says to you that they're going to take a misdemeanor case and somehow make it into a federal crime and give you 30 years for it, and it's a misdemeanor that no ever been prosecuted under, I think you'd be pretty hard pressed to find any fairness in that.
Was Mr. Kelly prepared for this day, and how did he prepare for this day?
Well, he's been locked up for going on 3 years now. It'll be, I think, 3 years in July. And so every day I think you're preparing, but I don't think anyone is ever prepared to spend essentially life in prison. I mean, I don't think you can prepare for that at all. Every day is difficult for him because he's got to deal with other inmates. He's a celebrity. So, every interaction you have to be concerned about. He's gone from a life of private jets and fancy meals and big Hollywood events to living in an 8x10 cell with a metal toilet with no seat. It's terrible. It's sad.
Is he on a suicide watch?
I don't know. That you'd have to ask the marshals.
But how's he taking all of it?
I haven't talked to him since the sentencing today, but I mean, he's a human being, and that's what I think people forget. He's a human being. I think anytime, look, when one of my clients gets sentenced to a day in jail, I feel for him. When they get sentenced to a year in jail, I feel for him. When I have to go visit them in jail, I don't like it. So I can't imagine what it's like having to actually live in jail.
This is one of the more prominent of the Me Too cases, and one of the few cases so far that involve mostly African-American women who were the alleged victims. Do you see some sort of agenda here by prosecutors? Is that what you're suggesting?
I don't think it had anything to do with race. I don't think that enters into it. In my opinion, I like to think that the prosecutors are above that. I happen to like the prosecutors who brought the case, but I don't understand why they brought it, because New York really had nothing to do with this. Only the allegation of herpes took place in New York. Everything else was other places in the country. So I don't know. They didn't have a stick in the game, so to speak.
As a final bottom line matter, do you see any way that he is freed anytime soon from being behind bars?
I don't see any way he's freed soon, but I do believe he's got outstanding appellate counsel, and I believe that the Second Circuit is going to reverse this conviction. Now, that's going to take the courage for them to do what judges should do, which is follow the law and not follow the public view.
Do you feel there was this rush by the public?
Oh, I don't think the public ever gave him a chance. You know, I know you've done documentaries over the years, and I've watched your documentaries over the years in different shows. You would never have put on a show where you just trotted up 8 quote unquote victims in the show and never had anything verifying the facts. Never went to the scene, never had a third party talk about, yes, this is what happened. None of that. Yet that's what Surviving Rkelly was. It was night after night of the same people saying the same thing and no fact checking at all.
The defendant's victims aren't groupies or gold diggers. They're human beings.
As is he. As is he. And that's what they forgot. So they could say they're not groupies, but when somebody flies across country to dress scantily in the first row, hoping that the singer notices them and then goes backstage, they're groupies. I'm waiting to see if they go and they prosecute, some of these other people who have been with young women, the guy from the Rolling Stones and some of the other ones. Let's see what they do with those now. Or are they just going to say...
Thanks for joining us here on Sidebar. Please subscribe on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Sidebar is produced by podcast manager Sam Goldberg, YouTube manager Bobby Schoes, video and audio editor Michael Denninger, and booker and researcher Alyssa Fisher. I'm Brian Ross. Speak to you next time.
Okay. What about the tape that you found? That you said you had came in possession of 2 white girls that Rkelly had. Your brother Robert had met at the mall, and I guess he met them at the mall, brought them back to the house, recorded them, and you found the tape. And you could have easily turned the tape over to the authorities, but you didn't do that. Was that true?
That wasn't true.
Really?
That wasn't true.
Wow. Well, so
For the day.
I did want to ask one last question. There was a conversation we had about your brother Rkelly impregnating his niece. Is that true?
No. No.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ghislaine Maxwell just got put away for 20 years. So she was supplying kids for all these fucking pedos, right? Where's the list? Is that just gets like, I don't know.
Kind of weird that got no coverage, but Johnny Depp and Amber was
everywhere. Yeah, and I'm like, so the list of, politicians and actresses and actors or whatever that they talked about, does that get swept under the rug? Do they not get any time for actually fucking those kids? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, that's weird how that just doesn't compute with me.
Illuminati here. We see Rkelly just got his motherfucking time. But this the question. It's not even a mugshot of this bitch Ghislaine Maxwell. It's not even a mugshot of this bitch. How do we know she arrested? She's definitely a Jew. Her father was an Israeli Mossad spy. So she's protected. She's not in jail. How do we know she's in jail? We know Rkelly in jail. But this motherfucking bitch was transporting children to get raped and molested. All these motherfucking Hollywood actors and shit, that's who she funded. They was her clients. We know about all these missing children. Adrenochrome. Y'all think all this is a big fucking coincidence?
Jeffrey Epstein was an Israeli Mossad spy. It's just funny that the Me Too movement at first originally was exposing the rich white elite, and then all of a sudden Bill Cosby and fucking Rkelly. But Rkelly, his story is fucked up, man. His family fucked up. It's a lot of fucking trauma in his eyes, man. But with this bitch right here, this fucking white devil right here, all of them fucking devils, man. Straight up. But this bitch right here, she don't get life. How Ghislaine Maxwell don't get life? How do we know she's arrested? There's no mugshots of this woman. Do y'all know who her father was and how powerful he was? They talk about children go missing in group homes, right? His father and Mother Teresa was like this. It was tight as fuck. Cause she was giving him all the children from the fucking group homes, from all the shelters, all the orphanage children. And they got an island. And they got all the politicians on tape having sex, molesting children. How the fuck is America not in an uproar? 400,000 children go missing a year in America. 400,000 children go missing a year in America. When you go to Walmart, their pictures is right there when you leaving out. How the fuck is this being allowed? How did Rkelly get 30 years when she get 20 years and we don't even know she really arrested?
I have spent the last 17 years in my own prison for what she, Jeffrey, and all the co-conspirators did to me. I was raped repeatedly. I was raped 3 times a day sometimes. And I was not the only girl on that island. There was a constant stream of girls being raped over and over and over again. And yes, Ghislaine must die in prison because I've been in hell and back for the last 17 years.
And 27 for me.
I was 10 years old when Liz Stein was being trafficked. I was 10. That is how long the sex trafficking ring has been going on for.
They gave my boy Rkelly 30, man. Fuck. Can't take this away from him, though. I'm in love. That nigga was the truth, man. She loves for real. Any kind of way you want to come, man. I don't want to see no niggas out. When a woman love, that nigga knew something, man. She loves for real. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Bullets Gotti. You already know what it is. Outside, man, in these Harlem streets, you know, late night. You know what it is. Let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about it. So, let's talk about this whole Rkelly, Ghislaine Maxwell case. But I want to talk about both cases, right? But I want to most importantly talk about the Rkelly case for a purpose, because a lot of people get confused. And they really think that the conviction was justified. And we all know conviction actually wasn't justified. The conviction was out of pocket. You know what I'm saying? Because how you going to convict somebody off of hearsay? Off of what you hear off of a documentary? You know what I'm saying? You give a nigga 30 years off of a hearsay case. You know what I'm saying? Which, in my opinion, I feel like if we convicting people off of gossip, and we convicting people off of hearsay, and we convicting people off of shit that's not proven, then that's a problem, man. Because if you really look at it, right, the case wasn't even a strong enough case. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't a strong enough case. The case was a whole lot of bull, a whole lot of BS, a whole lot of propaganda, a whole lot of lies. You got these females that came out and said all this and all of that. But they basically was capping and lying. You know what I'm saying? And for nobody could tell me that nobody wasn't lying and capping because I followed the case, and we could tell they was lying and capping. Say evidence, and you going off of propaganda and lies, and you got a bunch of females that weren't kids. These was grown women. You know what I'm saying? These were grown women. We gotta realize these was grown women in this man's house. These wasn't teenage girls. These wasn't little girls. These grown women. Grown women that were 18, 19, 20-something years old that was living in this man's house. Jump offs. You know what I'm saying? It's just like with the Harvey Weinstein case. Like, once a chick get a certain age or her looks start fading or she start abusing drugs, you start seeing all these lies and these propagandas. It's a bunch of felonious capers, like my man Pac said on that record. Bunch of felonious capers. You know what I'm saying? And if a chick got a lie and say you raped her or sexually assaulted her or did all this, right? Notice this about these chicks, right? You know what I'm saying? You know, I love coming uptown to Harlem, man. You see, it's that Harlem life. But yeah. Once you hear these chicks come out and say that, oh, they was this and that, and they didn't have no shoes, they ain't have no clothes. So if you ain't have no shoes, no clothes, or no nothing, right? How you was wearing all this designer? Dude kept you up at design. How you was able to take pictures with your family, talk to your family, but you said you couldn't talk to your family? That case was a bunch of cockamamie bullshit. To give a man 30 years when you know you ain't got a case on the man, you ain't had nothing on him. They gave him 30 years off of hearsay. Off of a documentary. You know what I'm saying? It was nothing real what was said. It was a hearsay. It was lies. It's propaganda. It's the hearsay. You know what I'm saying? So you got people talking about they doing this or they doing that, and you got dudes, parents lying, and you know they lied. You know what I'm saying? They straight up lied. The parents was lying. His brother even lied. His brother now on TV talking about, yo, yeah, I didn't mean to lie like that, and I ain't, you know what, my apologies, but you lied on your brother just for some money and some fame, my nigga. It's crazy. Like I was saying, it's like, you look at that whole case, right? Off of that whole Surviving R. Kelly. Now, you gotta look at the Surviving R. Kelly special, right? Everybody got paid. Both R. Kelly brothers got paid. His brother that's locked up was indulging in drugs. He got incarcerated for stealing. His other brother, Casey, had a drug problem also. So both his brothers, you know, they in what you call in bad positions. And R, you know, had to cut his brothers off because they was leeching, right? So now his brother comes online and saying, nah, I made a lot of that shit up. A lot of that shit wasn't true. And, you know, I was mad with my brother. But you was mad with your brother, but you lied on your brother on national TV and told those people all that BS, and you knew it wasn't true. You know what I'm saying? A lot of, like, his wife, she backtracked. You knew it wasn't true. You know what I'm saying? Everybody that made that said what they said about R. Kelly, they knew it wasn't true. They knew it was lies. They knew it was propaganda. But everybody was trying to get a payday. Everybody was trying to get money. Everybody was trying to get paid. So with them trying to get paid, they felt like, yo, This how we gonna get even. We gonna lie on him. We gonna lie on him. We gonna slander him, and we gonna get money. And look, everybody out that situation got paid. They got paid to be on that special. Come on, man. Everybody got paid to be on that special. Everybody. Everybody got paid to be on that special. All them chicks, you know, the journalist dude, everybody. Slander. Straight hearsay, straight he said, she said. No, it was scripted. All that was scripted. Like Master P said, if all this had happened, right, to these women, y'all wouldn't be talking about no surviving Rkelly. Y'all wouldn't be doing none of that. But, you see, we got to realize something in America, man. And this is the problem I always say about in this world, man, is that almighty dollar is the root of all evil. This man is incarcerated off of hearsay, lies, and slander. The same reason how Bill Cosby got incarcerated. Off of lies and slander. Bill Cosby got incarcerated off of not truthful evidence. Just a bunch of women coming out saying he did this, he did that, when he didn't do diddly to none of those women. Didn't meet half of those women he never even had no sexual relations with. But they came on TV and made it seem like he was having sexual relations with them. You know what I'm saying? See, and that's the times that we living in so much dangerous times that anybody could come out and lie and say anything and they'll get a payday. They'll get a check for just lying. You know what I'm saying? They'll get a check for lying. You know what I'm saying? Them chicks lied all the way to the bank. That's the crazy thing. They lied all the way to the bank. You know what I'm saying? They lied all the way to the bank and they knew they was lying. You know? But they didn't care. They wanted to lock Bill Cosby up off of hearsay. Kelly, he got incarcerated off of hearsay. You can't sit and tell me that was a strong case. That wasn't. Everybody, if you watch the case, these chicks was turned on him as soon as the money got low. The chick, the Jocelyn Savage chick, she was all for all her, the Israel McClary chick, like they was saying, oh, yeah, he's a good man. We love Robert, right? But as soon as the money got low, the McClary chick was like, yo, he did this. He made me eat my feces. All type of BS, right? All type of lies. Now she dotting all over the industry and being a prostitute. You know what I'm saying? So this is what I'm telling you, man. Stop believing in these things, man. That's why I said, man, free Kells, man, because at the end of the day, that was some propaganda. Now, I'm going to keep it real. I'm going to address old boy. I'm going to address this whole situation with Jeffrey Epstein right now, right? And then I'm going to go back to the Kelly shit. But I just want to say this about the Ghislaine Maxwell thing, right? Ghislaine Maxwell case was a political case. If you really look at Ghislaine Maxwell whole case, right? They didn't really have a case. They didn't want her. They wanted Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein ended up killing himself. Died in prison. So they had to find another scapegoat to put the time on. You know what I'm saying? Ghislaine Maxwell, to be honest, was not a big deal. They wasn't going to file any charges on her. They wasn't going to go even after her. They wanted Jeffrey Epstein. He killed himself. The case was done. So they like, okay, they messed up our case. We got to go snatch up the girl Ghislaine Maxwell. But what I didn't understand was if she is not the suspect of your case, what case do you really got on her? And I'm listening. If the dude that y'all want to go after is dead, then the case that y'all got is pointless. And the thing that I didn't understand was Jeffrey Epstein had immunity. You know what I'm saying? That's what people keep forgetting. He had immunity. He had immunity. You give somebody immunity, that means you're not supposed to go after them. That's just like with Rkelly case. Like, I'm like, yo, already Epstein case, he got immunity. So when he was found dead in the cell, and then when people was talking about, you know, the case was already, they was talking about dropping the whole case. And then next thing you know, they going after the chick that was his chick that he was messing with, fucking, and you know, about the whole scandal. But the thing that I didn't understand was, if she's not the intended target of the case, what case did they have? You know what I'm saying? Because if the dude that y'all got, the case is over with. But that's what I say, like, this case was a political case. It had nothing to do with none of what they was talking about. And if you really look at that case, like, just like the Rkelly case, those wasn't motherfucking little girls. Those was grown-ass women that accepted presents and gifts. And not only that, they took the money. They was living high off the horse. One of them was recruiting chicks to come on the doggone joint. And then she was trying to act like she was a victim, but she was recruiting chicks just like what Ghislaine Maxwell was doing. So that's what I didn't understand. Like, yo, these niggas pimping, they pimping, whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I didn't see where these was little girls. Because one, he's putting one of them in college. The other one, he got her a business. All type of foolishness was going on. And it's like, to me, I just don't, I'm gonna keep it real with y'all, man. It's hard for me to be convinced by bullshit. You know, and I smell bullshit from a mile away. It's maybe because I got street smarts and I just smell bullshit. And that whole Jeffrey Epstein case was bullshit. Just like the Harvey Weinstein case was bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Them chicks knew what they was doing when they went to sleep with Harvey Weinstein. They sat on that casting couch. They wanted to get piped down. You can't play victim and then you wanted to get piped down. Now you want to cry about I'm a victim. You know what I'm saying? That's what I don't understand. It's like, yo, shorty, you knew what you was doing. You knew what you was doing. They knew what they was doing. You know what I'm saying? And that's why in the Jeffrey Epstein case, they try to paint them as victims. None of those chicks was victims. None of those chicks was victims. They knew exactly what they was doing. You know what I'm saying? So what happened, like I said, he died and they put the case on his girl basically because they didn't want to drop the case, even though they really didn't have a case. You know what I'm saying? That was political. That was some political shit. We need, you know, okay, he's dead, so we need a scapegoat to put all his time on. They wasn't going to charge her. They wasn't going to do none of that. They just wanted a scapegoat so they could act like they was doing something. Like, in real talk, that was like I said, that was some dick and pussy shit. That was some hoes being hoes. And then they want to act all wholesome like they victims. They wasn't victims. They was hoes. They was hoes. They wasn't victims. You know what I'm saying? Victims don't act like the way them chicks was acting, accepting gifts from a dude that's supposed to be doing all this to them, but they accepting gifts, living high off the horse, living in mansions, wearing designer clothes. These are not victims. The chicks, let me tell you what victim is. You know them chicks in Cleveland? The three ladies that was held hostage in Cleveland? Those are victims. Those girls was in getting raped repeatedly, having babies, was chained, all type of things. Those was victims that couldn't see sunlight. Those are victims. Not those chicks that say, yo, oh, Kelly had us, we couldn't eat, we didn't have no shoes, we didn't have nothing, no clothes, we couldn't speak to our families. But it's pictures of them speaking to their families. They out wearing designer clothes. So what are you talking about that you was held captive and you was a victim? No, you wasn't held captive. You wasn't a victim. Like I said, victims is those women, those 3 women that was held captive in Ohio, in Cleveland, Ohio, by that monster that held those women captive for all those years when they was teenagers. Those are victims. Those are victims. Those are real victims. I respect real victims of sexual assault and real victims of sex trafficking. Not victims that talk about, oh, he did me wrong, and he was a monster, and he made me eat my feces, or the thing they talked about with Jeffrey. Like, come on, man. Like I said, Ghislaine Maxwell case was a whole lot of BS. It was a political thing. They went after her on some politics. Like, we gotta do something. We gotta shut the feminists up. So we go after her just to shut them up because he was dead. They had no case. If you really look deep down inside, they had no case on that whole Jeffrey Epstein thing. That case was a dead case. They just put anybody in there and lock them up. Come on. Oh, Kelly case, that was some bullshit. That was a bunch of, like I said, he said, she said, a bunch of people lying, and a bunch of people taking money, taking dives, set that man up off of lies. And all he was good to all those women and try to help them. And because their music career didn't go further, and because they couldn't get in the industry, and because he cut them off, or, he went his separate ways, they feel some type of way. Or the money got cut from them, and they wasn't getting no more money. So now they want to get on TV and say all them type of lies, man. A lot of them bitches is liars. It was one of them was stalking him. The other one, the Lisa Russell chick, she's a whole liar. You know what I'm saying? They been done exposed to on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? But everybody want to say, oh, Kelly's a monster and all Kelly. Nah, man, that's why I tell people, y'all gotta really do y'all homework, man. I don't be falling for that media shit. I do my homework, bro. That's just like with the whole Bill Cosby case. We knew what that was. People gotta do their homework. That Bill Cosby case, we knew what that was. That case was basically off of him not giving his land up, and then wanted to put a pipeline on his land. So because he didn't want a pipeline on his land, they wanted to incarcerate him and try to take his land. Come on, man. Kelly, man, one of his masters for his song, I Believe I Could Fly, they want to lock him up and imprison him. Come on. For 30 years. Come on. Like I said, the Ghislaine Maxwell case, that's a political case. Her conviction was political. That ain't had nothing to do with no justice. They ain't had nothing to do with none of that. Those was hoes that was on that island, and they knew what time it was, okay? They knew what time it was. Please. They knew what time it was, okay? Kelly case, that was a frame up, that was a setup, and that was a bunch of lies. And it's sad that his own brothers lied because they was so damn mad at a man, they had to lie on the media. They had to lie. They didn't tell. They had to lie. They had to lie. They had to lie to get that man charged. They ain't have no case on him, bro. They ain't had no case. The first time they came up with a case was in 2016. They shot them down and said this man was not running a cult. So how, when Atlanta authorities proved that this man was not running a cult in Atlanta, they proved it. They come back with a surviving Kelly just to put the nail in the coffin to get a conviction because they was mad to see a nigga doing good and making a major comeback. Same thing they did to Bill Cosby. Same shit. That's the same shit they did to Kelly. Anytime they see a brother trying to make a comeback, They want to cut them down. The same thing happened with Kobe. Kobe passed away. Then they want to bring up, oh, he did Colorado. He did that girl, which we all know that girl was a jump off. She was a jump off. All she did was fuck athletes and people, black men that came out there. She was fucking them, and then she basically was getting pregnant and aborting the babies. That's what she was doing, the chick in Colorado. So this situation with Rkelly was just a whole bunch of nonsense. If people sat down and really did their homework, they would understand that this case was a whole bunch of bullshit. It wasn't no real life, nothing. It was bullshit. And it's sad that, you know, this man is about to do 30 years in prison off of a lie and off of hearsay. Not facts, hearsay. That's sad, man. We got to do better in America, man.